Will they just keep up the same exact bans, swapping to blue side? Yeah, they will. So they don't want the Rumble priority. They're making it clear that no matter what side Weibo are playing on, these will be the bans. Likely, even if the series does get extended after this game.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, Rumble's been a huge pick for Kiaya, and then it's the two. I mean, it's Nocturne, which Levi's actually famous for, and then the Wukong, which has been by far his most successful thing across the last couple of years that it has been meta relevant. So it makes sense to take away. I think Nico is also just too strong to give over on B1. But if you want to ban another mid laner, to me, it's always Ryze. They're going to ban the Aurora because of the play rate here, but you know, we'll see if that comes back to bite them. Taliyah is left up on the board. So is that Ryze that I've been talking about, and they're actually going to favor it here.
Xiaohu prefers the Ryze over the Taliyah. Does Aress just take the Taliyah turn here? A lot of good jungle pairings with that one as well. Even if you don't get the global threat of a Nocturne and a Taliyah, do Levi and Aress like Vi Ari more? There's definitely a lot up here. It's just how much confidence does GAM have in those stock meta picks, and how much where do they want to bring out some creativity? Not yet. Taliyah is going to be the lock-in for Aress.
Yeah, I know it's been nerfed very heavily, but honestly, this could have been a Pantheon Galio angle, I think, in terms of just where it's at. It's been something that this team has found a ton of success on over the course of this year in general, but the Taliyah going to be the takeaway instead to kind of match a lot of that macro prowess. Alistair generally just considered probably the most consistent engaged tank in the entire game in terms of just how much he can set up. A lot of things being hovered. I don't really want to talk about them until they're locked in. Weibo has a ton of different things they can go for, but you called it, Slayer. There's the carry jungle. That's the Kiana coming through.
Definitely the most overpowered of all those like AD carry junglers right now, right? Remember, if you're joining us late, 25-19 is the patch we're on. So we are on the patch where I believe Kiana jungle is at its like most potent point. And Tian had some very vintage performances in the playoffs, and you know, I don't remember the regional qualifier, but definitely the playoffs on this one. As do we also get LPL Kaisa coming? Yeah, we do. So we get a LPL Classic draft. We got Xiaohu Ryze, Tian on a carry jungler, and a light LPL Kaisa.
Yeah, I mean, can you ask for anything more if you're a Weibo fan? I mean, you're getting basically everything that this team did at their best throughout this year. Obviously, the way that they maneuver, we'll say the rest of this draft does matter. Right now, I'm a little bit worried about the Breathe matchup. There are going to be a lot of things that are banned out against this Ambessa. The Renekton going to be the first one to be taken off the board, but, you know, that should leave some support options open as well. So plenty of ways to go for this. If you do want to ban out some carry junglers on the other side, I certainly wouldn't hate a Viego ban this game that I think could theoretically play off the Taliyah well. Maybe even a Xin Zhao ban just because it's such a good champion and can really affect the game in so many different ways. You know, I think the rest of these drafts are pretty easy to plan out, and clearly Weibo watched the previous series wanting to get rid of that Taliyah Lee Sin combo.
Yeah, get rid of that already. Wonder if Weibo are just happy with Breathe, Handshake, and Cassante, right? If it gets to the bans, I think that's a classic answer, and Ambessa provides a tank, but also a champion that can be pretty proactive alongside a Kiana, alongside a Kaisa. And look who recognized that. GAM Esports did, so they'll take the Cassante away. Yeah, I'm curious where Breathe wants to go, because I don't think he has a lot of Ornn reps. Does he want to play like a Yorick that he goes to a lot? Don't know if it's a great spot to do that. We'll have to see what Breeze's thinking here with B4, as Artemis is going to come back with a misfortune that doesn't have the best setup for the bullet time, I'll say, for now.
Certainly a very GAM way to draft. They did this a lot last year where they drafted MF really without a lot of setup. It's going to be the Leona to pair up with that dive coming in from the Kaisa. Love this bot lane duo. Yeah, it can really just make everything work out. Leona into Misfortune's a nightmare matchup for MF. So certainly felt like a pretty easy lock-in the moment that we saw everything. And it's going to be the Rek'Sai as the answer for Breathe on the top side.
Oh my god, does Levi slam a Zed Kiana matchup? That would be pretty wild. Bug would be fun too. Shout out my boy Quacks. Okay, he's going to go for the dragon. So Shyvana Kiana is going to really spice up our jungle matchup. You know, listen, I know Showmaker was throwing down some interesting champion picks that in our first series, the LeBlanc and Malzahar. But I want to give credit to these last two series. They've done a good job sticking to meta, but then getting a bit creative with a couple of these picks that I do think work. Shyvana, I think, works here. And Breathe Rek'Sai also, I think, checks a lot of the boxes that you would have wanted out of the Cassante.
I think my big worry here for the Shyvana is just when do you get your pressure? When is it your turn to create something on the map, right?
Yeah.
Like in this draft, when exactly are you going to be in the over fights, which I think M.Pesa does have quite a bit of a requirement to do with things like Talia and Misfortune throughout the rest of this comp. And I think if Rek'Sai can get that lead early, could be a big deal, but we're finally back. The pause is over.
Pause is over, and we are back on the Rift here. Tian already fighting early to get some vision down in classic LPL fashion to try and track the Raptors clear here for Levi, who's going with the fleet of footwork.
Yeah, definitely interesting call.
Yeah,
I would say.
I feel like I'm failing to see a jungler I've ever thought of taking fleet. I feel like that's just such a laning rune.
Yeah, you know, I can't say that it's the Shyvana build that I'm familiar with, so
it's usually
we'll have to
Conqueror
see.
or Phase Rush,
yeah,
right?
definitely. I mean,
oh my
you
Lord.
can definitely go fleet if you know just want the precision tree. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like I think in theory, like having energized is solid, but I guess it's all really just about how you execute on it. Really, it's going to come down to less about Levi, as I said earlier, and more really about like Aress and Kiaya and whether or not these lanes can actually kind of neutralize and stay okay for GAM, because Shyvana might not even have the chance to play this game fully if it weren't for if it isn't for the Rise and the Rek'Sai on the other side, I'll say.
Right, and that Rek'Sai already taking a bit of control here. Kiaya, decent chunk coming from Breathe. We'll say bot lane. We didn't get to see the full page on that scuffle, but the thing that I come away with is that Light is down both Flash and Barrier within a minute and a half of this game. So a lane that can already be decently rough, especially with Elio threading that headbutt pulverize and Artemis being very burst-oriented with the PTA on the Misfortune. I think Light has to be very careful with how he plays these next few levels.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree here with the Kaisa. You definitely can't be in a spot where you misplay. Speaking of, we have some action down on the bot side. At least for now, though, Light being able to establish pressure early is really going to make things a lot more difficult for GAM. We already thought they were going to be behind the 8-ball, but Leona just makes this a bit more difficult. It's going to be Levi, at least on the bottom side of the map for now. He's going to understand that he is on vision, so not much to do, but could potentially be a 3v3.
Oh, good ward, though. Tian was begging Levi to just walk into that brush and give him some free damage down. Wonder if there'll be a fight over that bottom crab. Tian might just walk his way up towards top side here, so comfortable to trade those crabs in that aspect. We see Aress TP back for his first reset. Breathe is really trying to keep tempo up in this top side, but Kiaya has done a decent job getting some HP back and staying comfortable in the CS number. It's just where do Tian and Levi... Sorry, where does Levi... No, I'm switching up my junglers. My brain is going into scrambled eggs. Tian, where does he look for an early gank? Because that is where he is more powerful. And right on brand. He's
right
going after
cue.
Aress. Xiaohu flashes, get the Rune Prism, and make sure he gets away from the flick back. First stare comes across. Aress going to flash over the fat wall, but Tian follows. And just like we saw towards the end of the LPL, Tian on this Kiana is locked in. Tian on carry junglers is something to be feared if you are GAM Esports.
Is exactly what we called out in draft in terms of the way that these setups are going to work. If Xiaohu can get that, you know, pressure and really force Aress out of kind of the situation that he wants to be in, if he's going to be off center, if you could set up for that Kiana, all of a sudden Tian is so much more priority on the map than Levi ever will. And especially with Dragon spawning in 20 seconds, you highlighted it, it's Shyvana. Like, you have to be weary of Dragon basically on spawn here. Now all of the sudden with the reset, Tian is going to be in a better spot for that. Tiamat completed here, so... Pretty big win there for Weibo to get that first blood.
I like how he's working through his camps too, right? He's topside clear out first. Is Kiaya and Breathe blow for blow. Wonder if Breathe is going to try and get ultimate first. Kiaya, how close? Yeah, they're about halfway through. Breathe doesn't want to take that chance. He's going to go forward, and I think Kiaya's going to have to flash out here. Breathe actually flashes away from the combos, and Kiaya now has the flash advantage and the XP advantage. Breathe has to be very careful about even sticking around on this wave as Levi looking for a bit of wraparound on the bot side. Nothing to be found there.
Just a lot of action happening across the map here. Xiaohu's going to hit level 6 as Dragon essentially spawned about a minute or so ago. We'll see how aggressive they want to be in pathing towards it. The vision is going to be pretty clear in spotting out the Rise on the way down there. So it's really just about how aggressive Tian wants to be in taking that away rather than trying to negate it. But it looks like it could be a bot lane 3v3 here.
A lot of plasma stacks from Light. Gets the lethal tempo going as well. Levi, there's not a lot he can do here without that Dragon Rage ultimate coming online. Despite all this pressure we put on this first Dragon, looks like it's going to be Levi and Tian resetting off the bot side to get back out on the map.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously great for Weibo. The longer that these Dragons go uncontested, the worse it is for the Shyvana player, regardless of if she's getting it or not. So just the fact that they're not going to be spawning new ones is definitely good. I do want to give some credit, especially over to Kiaya, who's kind of just been better in lane than Breathe. Throughout the first 2 games of this series, has done a great job of being able to generate a lead. I think in game number 1, had a great matchup in game 2 here. Not so great, is still in a really good spot coming out with the Ambessa here. So just a lot of credit to a player that we've known as a great laner for a long time, but is definitely putting it into action with Tian on the top side here, invading to take camps away.
So many camps.
That first Dragon will be taken, so that's the trade-off, is basically the entire top side here for that first Drake for Shyvana.
I don't hate this necessarily. I think this sets you up pretty well for grubs on top of that. Xiaohu even making a point to say, hey, listen, we really need to take these camps away. We really make sure Levi feels it in the gold department going for that first Dragon, and he's going to lose red buff and Krugs. GAM are going to try and sniff this one out, but I think Tian with Smite, he's not even going to need it. So he's going to get out, not going to be spotted here either. And Levi should tick over level 6 off of these. Yeah, so he's going to get level 6 as well. Both ultimates online. Grub's about 30 seconds out, and you could just tell that Weibo really want to be the ones to have control of that.
Definitely. I think Weibo are in a great spot to not only want control, but to grasp control of these grubs away from what GAM wants to do. Levi's going to have a hard time actually fighting this out, even though he's hit level 6. Again, just because of the way that Shyvana is structured right now, it's really hard to compete against the root that comes in from Rise, as well as the damage from Rek'Sai that's just naturally there in the early game, not even to mention the 1 kill on Kiana. So it's a very dangerous time to try and take a fight if you're GAM, but might be one of the better times this game, if only just because I have a hard time believing that things will get a ton easier. Levi going to start it up, at least to check.
Does he know that Tian is right here? He saw Crisp show. Maybe Levi just trying to get one. Elio and Artemis do swing on over. It's a weird assignment. Aress and Kite and Light are on the bot side here. There's a bullet time. Elio trying to go after Tian. Sublimus May Tally gets caught. The Dragon Rage from Levi. Tian gets out. Big Solar Flare comes down from Chris. We have enough damage to deal with Artemis. Yes, they do. And Tian limps his way out on a sliver of HP. Weaver's all coming across for Aress. He gets the flick back. Is going to catch out on a Xiaohu, but the Void Rush comes across for Breathe. They find a second kill. Chris gets his cooldowns back up. Make it a double for Breathe. They try and overload GAM with their mid lane advantage, but they don't got the stones to throw around with Weibo. 4-0 up in the first 9 minutes of our game 2.
And that is just a straight-up win for Weibo Gaming. I think it's horrendously misplayed at points by GAM. Most importantly, something we'll talk about a bit later, but Elio goes in for the initial engage, and they do end up locking down Tian, but they just don't have the damage to finish him off. Crisp goes in with the re-engage, and they want to blow up Artemis, but Tian almost gives his life to do so. It's so close with the Misfortune Q to be able to take him down, but it's just not enough. At this point, Aress finally arrives, and it's too late. I think the big thing that I'm concerned about that I want to talk about here is it's the Taliyah and the Kai'Sa in a side lane going toe-to-toe, and Taliyah has teleport, and it's just not used at any point. She walks up and then ults into the fight after everyone has already been dead, and it just kind of is a waste of that side lane pressure you had generated. GAM behind the 8 ball once again, and now it's costly. They are over 2k gold down already pre-10 minutes into the game. Just about as bad of a spot as you can be in.
And the huge bulk of it on Tian. May have whiffed his first supreme display of talent, but he is supremely in the driver's seat of his jungle matchup. And again, I want to touch on this now because Xiaohu is going to transition into these side lanes where he's going to feel much more comfortable. It's another early game where Xiaohu gets one of his patented control mages and just settles in comfortably. Nobody really paying him any mind. And it's going to be dangerous later. It's going to be costly for GAM Esports later on. Here's
Flash.
Breeze, gets the knock-up on the flash. Probably execution used just to create some distance, but Kiaya should be done in dust. It flashes away from the last Q out of Tian. So Weibo, a little bit upset they don't get the kill, but still value found getting that flash and that pressure off the top side.
Yeah, I think Mbessa not having flash really kind of eliminates a lot of her aggressive tools. Bullet time going to be traded for the barrier here on Light. Too much to worry about for the Kaisa just yet, but look at the CS lead Artemis has been able to generate here. A pretty massive advantage. Entirely keeping GAM.
Oh my god, forces the Dragon's Rage out of Levi. Tian on the flank. This is going to be a big supreme display of talent. There you go, Tian. Light swings it with the Killer Instinct as well to bring just enough damage. Levi over the wall. Flashes. Elio blast cones out, but boy, did Weibo snuff out that gank from GAM on the mid lane.
Yep, I mean, it's vision advantage. Look at your mini-map here. That's why they snuffed it out. Look at all of those control wards. And now we got a tussle on the top side as Breathe ends up taking that tunnel back out to his tower and, you know, keeping himself safe. But really, again, Weibo just have full control of the map. They have full setup. And my key to the game here was Ryze being able to get that mid lane push. That's exactly what they've been able to generate. And now, just as I said, like, how do you play this as Shyvana? Like, what are you even supposed to do in this game? If you're Levi, this is so difficult to try and push forward on because you can't really actually create anything on your own. You have to hope that there's a mistake coming in from the other side. And as much as Weibo makes mistakes, it doesn't really feel like they're on one here today.
And they've got their sleeping giant still farming up, right? The Roa is completed for Xiaohu. He's got the tier. He's sitting on even more valuable gold. If things do get a bit wonky in this mid game, Weibo can rest assured in the fact that Xiaohu is going to outscale, virtually everybody in this game if enough time is allotted.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the concern, is that, you know, in the late game here, you're definitely not feeling great about going into a Kaisa and a Ryze and, you know, everything like that. Breathe could potentially be the target as Dragon is taken on the bottom side of the map. They have 3 here, but it's a very risky dive.
I think he should have spotted with one sonar. Maybe Breathe does know. That's why he's engaging right onto Kiaya. Levi with the Dragon's Rage over the wall. Void Rush, public execution, not timed well enough from Kiaya. And he goes trade for trade with Breathe, but look at the win that really means for Weibo as they mop up plates that Levi alone can't just answer.
So you're telling me the trade was Dragon, multiple plates bot lane, and a kill top lane for a kill top lane.
Well, hold on here. And in full
we're not even done.
Light.
Light flash.
Yeah, I mean, does get caught in those slippery stones and then has to flash out the seismic shove, so valuable ult flash combo off Light there, but stays alive, and Weibo are right back to knocking down plates, I think. Yeah, those should just be good enough with the 2 grubs to find first brick here. 5 plates full, and first brick means feats of warfare as well for Weibo. Everything going up LPL in our matchup right now.
And won't you look at that? It's Tian and Xiaohu getting the gold from the turret and really pushing the game forward. This mid-jungle duo has been so important to Weibo's success. It continues to be.
Does not have ult, so there's no real threat here. Yep.
Yeah, no ult on Mbessa makes it a little bit more difficult. Now, if that had happened a couple of seconds later, perhaps things are a bit different, but alas, not the case for now. It is going to be Aress on the top side. Just looking to try and hold off this Rek'Sai as much as possible, who's basically already done her job. Now with Titanic and 3 kills, it's going to be really easy for this side lane to begin. And if that engage goes down, basically your job this game as Rek'Sai is to interrupt bullet time, and it's going to be pretty easy for you to do that.
Maybe a big reason why this Rek'Sai came through is that big B5 pick into Kiaya's Mbessa. As we do, as this series has gone on, with Game 2 not over yet, it does feel like the 3 regions representing the Asia Invitational are falling into place as expected. LCK starts the day dominating, with JDG losing 2-0 to D+ Kia. LCK goes blow for blow after that, but Weibo have been in control of this series for, I would say, 85% so far through, up against the LCP debut.
I think that that's fair, considering just, you know, how game 1 went. Maybe a little bit more favorable towards GAM in game number 1, but this game is all Weibo right now. They are definitely really choking the life out of them with the way that they're controlling the map. It's just so hard for them to get resources at this point because Tian is somebody that you cannot run into. If you're in a spot where the Kiaya is there, it's almost tough for you to feel comfortable doing that. And even with GAM kind of posturing here.
Elio going after Tian. Good flash away from Levi in the Dragon's Rage form. Where do they get the bullet time off by this point? Crisp is going to heal himself back up. Solar Flare is going to hit only onto the Alistair. Public execution wide from Kiaya. And the Supreme Display talent forces Artemis out of the fight. Again, when does the bullet time come out? Finally, Artemis drops it. Aress trying to find the trade. Kills. Xiaohu does get interrupted on the front of the fight there. Diving after the Ambessa. And Light's just too far out of position to really entertain anything further. Tian now getting chased down. Levi picks up a huge shutdown. And just like that, the gold lead cut in half for Weibo.
Huge double kill there coming in from Levi. That's a fight that really should never happen if it's executed properly. But GAM get an avenue and they take it back into this game. Levi now on the Shyvana has a lot more rain to be able to play the map. An item actually completed here with the Spear of Shojin. And then, of course, you are going to be able to push forward a little bit more with the Shyvana now that you're getting closer and closer to that level 11. So a lot of positives, but teleport's coming in. They want this Herald. It's going down fast, but everybody's here for Weibo.
And they'll be able to pick it up. Breathe was trying to be a bit of a nuisance, but that is the Herald picked up. I want to go back through this fight, Kman, and talk to me about where Weibo really go wrong through this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good engage here by Elio, but at the end of the day, Tian just has to flash out and just play this a little bit slower. Crisp a little bit too far forward. Now Xiaohu's in the back line, and everybody's just a tad bit disconnected, even when the public execution goes wide. Tian's just a little bit too far forward, taking a little bit too much poke damage at the start of this fight. Aress actually does a great job of pumping out damage on the Talia at the back end here, but really it's the setup for the bullet time that just completely changes things. Kiaya being able to live long enough to actually set things up. Levi has the damage to play the fights. It's really just about making sure the Shyvana can actually step up and do that damage, and that's exactly what GAM did in that fight. If they can play around their jungler, things can definitely still swing back in their favor. This game is certainly not unwinnable.
Yeah, I think Xiaohu thought he was a 3-item rise when he was a 1.5-item rise. The way he was playing on the front line of that last fight gets completely exploded, and we did see that it's a bit difficult sometimes for Light to justify flying across these fights right now. Another one's breaking out. Stun lands onto Aress, forces Levi into his ultimate form. That Solar Flare traded for the Dragon's Rage of Levi. That's going to slowly start ticking down. So I think if Weibo play this patiently, they wait for this ult to kind of wear out from Levi, maybe they can force their way back in for this Dragon. How antsy are Weibo going to get here? Xiaohu now arrives off to the side. Tian over the wall. Trying to really wait Levi's rage bar out. Is Chris going to re-engage, try to get Levi out of that Dragon's form? Ooh, good double stun comes across from Tian as everything freezes up because GAM are just stun locked. Trying to play towards this Dragon. It's a trade of supports with Breathe coming off towards the flank. Weaver's Wall from Aress. They're just all bailing out. GAM are calling off the entire Drake play. And Tian going to even up the count one apiece.
Yeah, it's well played by Weibo. Again, just playing slow and steady and making sure that if you're going to trade 1 for 1 and grab that position. That's the most important. Levi having to flash here on the Shyvana with Xiaohu being such a danger, such a threat. It is only second Dragon for Weibo Gaming, so it's not the end of the world quite yet, but definitely a nice win here to get some momentum back in their favor and to get more gold into the pocket of the Rise that is starting to get closer and closer to becoming a problem.
So off this reset, we'll have Seraphs completed. Roa is 2 stacks away from being online. So the scale items are there. It's just going to have to be about bringing the rest of the damage. And then Xiaohu can play the fights out. Well, I don't want to say completely how his heart desires, but a lot closer aligned to how aggressive he was in that last little skirmish. And things should be a lot more okay for the Spring Tiger.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a great spot to carry this game. I mean, we saw it on the Orianna in game number 1. When he is comfortable, when he's in a spot where he can just play front to back and he doesn't have to worry too much about what the rest of his team is doing, it feels pretty good for Xiaohu, even at his absolute worst. It's always been a strength of his. So, you know, hopefully that can be the case here on the Rise for all those Weibo fans out there. Seraph's now completed 9 stacks on the Roa. He is going to be hard to kill. And that's really kind of the main thing. I know people have soured a bit on the, you know, the double stacking mid lane build, but the reason you build it, especially with Kiana and Kaisa and all these other damage dealers, is because your job is to make sure you can pump out as much damage over the course of a fight as possible. You will have that chance here. As Rift Herald now dropped in the mid lane. It's an aggressive push from GAM.
Dragon stands out from Levi as well, once again, showing we are looking to play our turn on the map. Gets that mid-tier 1 knocked down. Not much else on the map coming to fruition. Otacon is on the top side this game. You see Breathe and Kiaya slugging it out a bit. Ping's coming down towards that Otacon, but it's Tian that's maybe looking to gank onto Kiaya.
Yeah.
So the ward is going to shut it down for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good delayed play here by GAM, just getting a free tower in the mid lane using that Rift Herald. That's exactly what you wanted for. Otacon now on the top side, though, does mean that that's where all the pressure is going to go, even with 2.5 minutes on that Dragon, which would be sole point for Weibo. You cannot afford to give over top side pressure, which is why you need to make sure that your strong side is there. Kiaya playing weak side here on the Mbessa just needs to make sure he doesn't make a gigantic mistake. Tian not really in a position to capitalize, but definitely don't want to be anywhere close to a strong Kiana. For now, it's going to be up to Levi to see what he can do around this Otacon before Tian ends up making his way up there.
Levi spotted by Xiaohu on the Octagon, so they have an idea of where Levi is for now. Is he trying to solo this thing? Okay, he comes off of it for now. I thought he was really trying to tap into some Shyvana tech that I am not privy to. But we once again get to have the fun discussion, Kman. Who is really about throwing an Otacon? Is it the LPL staple strategy, or has the LCP adopted it early on in the ASI? Because we know there's going to be a fight on this Otacon soon.
Well, if Game 1's anything to go off of, then it's going to be both of them. And it's going to be in completely different ways. I imagine Weibo will have full control here, but you cannot, underestimate the damage that could come in from this Shyvana. Teleport.
TP. Kiaya coming on in. Breathe. Sitting comfortably on a bit of a flank island here. But Weibo want to go after the mid-tier 1 turret. They think they've caught GAM slumbering a bit. As we do see our Grasshopper representative is supporting a Weibo 2-0 right now. Keep that in mind, loyal viewers.
I mean, certainly, has the Grasshopper been wrong today? I have no stat to prove to me that that's not true. So
Hard-hitting question right there from you, Kman.
Yes. The Grasshopper is right in my mind, because even if the Grasshopper is wrong, it was the result that was wrong and not the Grasshopper, of course. So,
I see.
Yes, you just have to make sure that we're following the Grasshopper here, and that means that Weibo is in a position to at least control this upper side. 30 seconds now on Mountain Dragon. Like I said earlier, sole point for Weibo Gaming. You look at the items coming in, it's basically second item completion on everybody here for Weibo Gaming, and even for GAM. And it's going to make the fight really chaotic and tense, and especially with the gold being in a place that's still manageable for GAM. If they can get one good Shyvana ult off with a bullet time, that's more than enough to be able to melt through that front line of Weibo. They have to control the area, though, to make sure that can happen.
Control and setup. So immaculately valuable at this point. And, well, you can see for Weibo, not just the vision, but maybe Breathe and his tunnels are what are kind of making GAM a little wary wherever they step. Have to clear some of those out, fight the vision war. But somebody has to answer Breathe on this bottom side. He's going to make sure that a wave slams into this tier 2 turret pretty quickly. Levi prioritizing dragons as a Shyvana does. Do Weibo just immediately pull an Otacon trigger?
Yeah, no, for sure. You just take this trade. It's second dragon for GAM. I get it, it's Shyvana, but this is a free Otacon for Weibo Gaming. No jungler here to steal, so it will just be a complete trade. And once again, I think Weibo is getting very much the better end of this deal. Otacon, an effect that I believe to be incredibly powerful that will immediately turn their attention to the top side here. GAM could push mid lane, though, if they do want to try and trade.
I think they will. They'll just open that one up alone. So plus gold trade here for GAM. They're really respecting Breeze showing up there. They'll knock down the turret nonetheless. Tian steals away a red buff. Kiaya trying to contest it.
Redemption.
Talent has to be used. He jumps over the wall. Public execution does not hit. I don't think Kiaya knows that Xiaohu is here, though. Ruthlessism lands, but here comes Elio and Artemis. Xiaohu out of position. Tian caught by Aress, who jumps in with a Weaver's Wall. Bullet time in the face. Xiaohu goes into the stasis, but he is as good as dead, and he can't even trade Elio out. Tian's going to fall to Aress as well. Overextension from Weibo on the top side, and boy, has their gold lead completely collapsed.
That is exactly what Weibo could not afford to do, is make a mistake like that. That's what GAM have been waiting for all game long. Some gold to get themselves back into this competition, and it's on the right members. Again, it might not be perfect, but the interrupt coming in from Crisp.
Why? Okay, I guess to be a little bit cheeky. Nonetheless, maybe waiting for a Void Seeker for Light to come up, but I feel like GAM want him to dive into them nonetheless. Oh my god, okay, breathe.
Levi?
Oh, Void Russian. Oh, Dragon's Rage! And a flash is all that's needed for Levi to be saved.
Still, that is a big resource for the Shyvana burned here, and just goes to show where Breathe is at on this Rex side. We can talk about how it was picked as a lane counter pick, but it's still very, very much a problem here in the later part of the game, and it's only going to get more difficult to deal with as he continues to build these items. Right now, Shyvana has to be so careful. Levi has to play this basically perfectly without flash to make sure he's not in a bad spot. It's not even talking about the fact that Artemis is so relevant towards this comp, but it's a huge call. Baron started.
All right, TP coming across. Levi trying to get his rage up enough for an ultimate, but is getting burned down. It's going to have to be a bullet time from Artemis, so they're just going to give the Baron. What a call from Weibo, daring GAM to fight them over the purple worm.
Absolutely massive call, and it works out so well for Weibo. They get Baron, and they get away scot-free. It's literally everything you could ask for. In this instance, they even burn the teleport out of the Talia in the mid lane to really limit some of their options moving forward. Weibo with a masterclass in sneaking Baron, and they get away with it scot-free.
That is a head-scratcher from GAM. I mean, they weren't even that out of position, it felt like, but just too slow to the draw, and now we get a Baron power play, building even more leads, shredding the resistances of GAM if they ever try and fight. Going after a tier 2 turret, Tian looming off to the side. Does Levi see an angle in here? He's going to jump in, just trying to keep Weibo off the turret as Elio nearly goes down. Light's going to go after it with the Q, but he doesn't get it even though in the upgraded form. They get the bullet time out of Artemis and the redemption. Alistar as well, and they're just playing coy because they want to go after top side. Xiaohu and Tian spring the trap with the Realm Warp, and they'll take another structure down.
I mean, can you possibly say anything else for Weibo Gaming? They just went from being completely neutral to sneaking Baron and being up 2k gold in like a minute and a half. It's super well played, very decisive coming in from Weibo. And this is the best version of the team that we've been talking about. This is something we saw from them last year as well. When they play at their best, it's because they're constantly just pushing forward. They don't really care about the consequences. They just want to try and make positive plays, and that is what they are doing now, utilizing resources as much as possible to try and make as many plays as they can. Now the question is, can they utilize this to get this next dragon? It's 2 apiece. It would be soul point for both of these teams. Not the end of the world. You shouldn't lose the game over this, but you're in a very strong spot here as Weibo. You should be willing and capable of fighting now that you've got 3 items on, Kiana and Rise.
Just gonna look back at, I guess, this mid play to see how low Elio gets.
Yeah,
I was curious
he was pretty close.
Yeah, I was curious if the upgraded Q was going to be enough, but him popping Unbreakable Will right there was what saves him. Live and live, Crisp is completely caught by Kiaya. Tian, though, gets a huge reprieve that plays talent, and Light goes in. Killer Instinct gets 1. Elio going to go down second to a Void Rush. Chris sacrifices himself for the success of Weibo as Breathe running wild. Aress to fall next here. Xiaohu untouched, putting pedal to the metal. And it's time for Weibo to start breaking this game open.
Yeah, it looked terrible, or at least what we saw of it looked terrible, because we just come back to Chris dead. No way.
One more Q is going to get it. There is the general sentencing GAM to death. It's only Levi to tell the tale. And Weibo may just go for the jugular right here. They got 4 up. They've got a wave and grubs coming in. It's Elio that spawns in 5 seconds. Levi fully healthy, but the Nexus turrets are going down rapidly. GAM superstar juggler, what can he do to try to save? It's Elio that flies in with a huge headbutt, pulverized, but he's down. The Realm Warp, I don't know what that Realm Warp was exactly for. They're going to actually go after the inhibitors. I guess the stall was long enough from Levi for Weibo to not go for the game-ending call.
Oh, TP coming in from Kiaya behind everybody.
Hey, buddy. Crisp is here. It's like, don't worry, my friends are coming over. I promise. They're here to help me. Here, stop moving. They're here to help me. Here's my friend Light, who just swung with the Killer Instinct. They do lose Levi, but luckily Light is 3 items. This Kaisa hits like a freight train. Oh, another one. Another one.
Oh, almost picking off.
I think Breathe mops this one up, though.
I think so as well. I don't think Levi is long for this world as Shyvana here.
See you later, Levi. All right, so got a little bit wacky, but Weibo are going to get that dragon you were talking about, Kman. Just came a little bit later. Some other stuff happened. I don't know if you missed it.
Yeah, you know, the dragon was the important part of this, I think. Nothing else really worth bringing up, I think. The base is cracked open. Doesn't really matter. We're going to get a replay of what actually started this because we didn't get to see this in break. But Crisp does miss his full engage, gets seismic shoved back, and just CC chained into death. And somehow this is a good play for Weibo Gaming as Tian, just with one of the best Kiaya ults you will see, ends up playing this fight incredibly well. Him and Light just linking up for a lot of damage. Xiaohu feels so comfortable to just run forward alongside Breathe at this point because those scaling items have completed. And so really easy to now just kind of take everything out. And we saw the flash forward from Xiaohu. We get to see it again, and we get to see the setup for it here as well with Artemis just taking way too much poke. The Kaisa W once again landing. Xiaohu feeling comfortable to just flash over. And, you know, I think we can call that a back-breaking play. Elio, behind enemy lines, level 11 to Breed's level 18.
He has completely immersed himself in the Weibo culture. All right, now he's backing on out of there. So Weibo looking like they're going to grab another 2-0 here on our day unless a catastrophe strikes. And I want to make sure, you know, Xiaohu has a good game here. Light goes deathless to this point. 5-0-3 has a huge bounty, but I think this Breathe Rek'Sai needs more credit than score lines are really going to dictate. He has just been such a problem dipping in and out of these fights, getting knockups. The Void Rush is going forward. Such a side lane threat. You talked about how he slowed down Kiaya on this Mbessa as well. This is really what I feel like a classic bread and butter Breathe game.
Yeah, I mean, this is side lane Breathe. This is give me counter pick, I will win. WE Breathe from back in the day. Exciting to see that it's still very much a part of him. And, you know, for Weibo, he's kind of been a key piece for what they've been doing at their best this season. So, you know, you get him to showcase that on the international stage is fun. He's got a flank angle here on GAM if he wants to take it. Would be greedy with no rise, but could potentially look Tian.
Solar Flare gets cleansed out of Artemis.
Ooh, the ult
talent tags him instead. Public Execution goes on to Breathe, but he's a very tanky Rek'Sai. Kiaya doesn't get enough damage to really burn through that one. Tien's down to health at half HP, though. Xiaohu having to kite back. Weaver's wall forward. They're going after Xiaohu. He is cut off. Does he have the stasis to go towards? Yes, he does. And now Breathe can come back forward. Bullet time, though. Going to cut through Xiaohu. Big picks being found. Can Breathe find a trade kill? Yes. Goes into the Void Rush, but he's not going to find Levi either. There's just no way for Light to kick down the door here. Another shred of Light coming through for GAM Esports to keep this series alive.
A huge 2-for-1, and GAM ends up really capitalizing on it. Really well played overall from them, but it's you know, reigns true. If Tian can't hit that ultimate, if he can't get all that damage down early on in the fight, I don't know if they have the power to break through these health bars fast enough to avoid their front line kind of crumbling. GAM do not have the tempo or the pressure to be able to go for this Baron. They're going to try anyways.
There are minions knocking on an inhibitor in the bot side right now as this Baron goes down. Below 10k.
Slow.
Chris has to walk up first, trying to set up Light to get a ton of damage into Kiaya. Levi comes over the wall, but Light has too much to deal with. If you're GAM, Light has been unleashed, and he says, I'm calling game, I'm calling series. Give him a triple kill, and with the wave I talked about on the bot side, that will end our series. Xiaohu gonna lead the troops through to a Weibo Gaming 2-0.
Leave it to Light to step up when it matters the most. A player that we talk about constantly being the one to carry this team in regional qualifiers makes his presence known here at this tournament.
Might have just earned himself his first MVP award in ASI history as Weibo cement themselves as a step above the LCP for now with a 2-0 over GAM Esports.
And this one was even better than game number 1 in terms of their performance. They end up dominating the early game. There are a couple of mistakes in the latter half. We just saw one of them in a team fight, but Weibo make the decisive calls, they make the correct moves, and they get themselves a 2-0 victory. More importantly, they tie themselves with D plus Kiaya at the top of their group.
That will, yeah, that's going to put them in set up for a really fun second whenever that matchup goes down. Gotta look at what day it is.
Ooh,
but
let's check that out.
nonetheless, we got to look at some of these post-game stats here. Yeah, I think it's a hard. I mean, that's you talked about, right? This is a comp from Weibo that has a ton of damage across the board. They really all showed up, right? Like Tian, Breathe, Xiaohu, and Light. Look at that, 22%, 26%, 24%, 21%. That is exactly the damage spread you want out of a comp like this.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for more. It's everybody putting in the work and putting in everything they need to, and it all comes in different phases of the game. I think stepping up when they need to. You have Breathe, who did 26% of his team's damage, but so much of that came pre-20 minutes when he was really the one that was kind of punching out a lot of damage on the top side, and then you have Tian and Light being able to get so much of that back in the later half of the game. Xiaohu, being able to kind of carry the mid game. So it's just everybody kind of taking their phase of the game, utilizing when their champion is the strongest, and making Weibo a better team for it.
Apologies for the full feed that we're getting right now. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties on the LPL English side, but that doesn't matter. We can go back through some of these highlights. I would label this game to Kman as the story of the almost comeback. Right? There's been a couple of fights here where things got decently murky, but there was never GAM were never in position to like fully take advantage of some of these close fights. It felt like.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the problem is that they kind of relied on Weibo Gaming making mistakes. And when they did make mistakes, I think GAM did a good job of capitalizing on them. But when you draft this comp around Shyvana can't get in unless all of a sudden all this engage ends up going wide. And, it just makes it much more difficult for GAM to feel comfortable. This is a great bullet time from Artemis that actually does really do a lot of damage to that front line. It allows Levi to play more aggressive on the back end of this fight. But if you don't have that, if you don't have the perfect setup, which it's hard to do because we talked about it, it's Misfortune plus Alistair. It's not Misfortune plus Rel or anything like that. Now you're in a position where you don't have the damage, Levi can't dive in, and he doesn't really have the tank stats to survive. So it's just more of a finicky comp that requires very specific execution, and fortunately for GAM, they just weren't better here today.
There were signs, though, right? We saw – I like the creativity, the fact that Levi gets to play these carry AP champions. I think, like you mentioned with your worries from draft, I don't hate playing the Shyvana game, right? I don't necessarily – I like the Lilia look, but – it never felt like GAM's draft strategy was linked up with this jungler that we put on such a high pedestal for GAM on. In this game in particular, right? If you're going to play the Shyvana, we need to get some aggressive pushing lanes that can give her space to capitalize on that pressure. They just were never in position to do that in this game too. And Levi, I mean, this fight in particular, there were heroic moments, but it was just too little too late.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing, right? With a player like Levi, whose champion pool has always been so eclectic, right? Like, the Nocturne was always the signature pick. Nocturne was meta for a little while, but certainly not in the time when Levi was picking it nearly as much as everybody else. He pulled out the Lilia in game number 1. There are always these picks that he goes towards that he wants to be a little bit different on, and unfortunately didn't work out here. It went to the other jungler instead, with Tian picking up player of the game for game number 3. I'm definitely a bit surprised. I think that there were other options, but honestly, I can't say that I disagree. I actually think I agree with this choice. Maybe against your wishes, Slayer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, I've definitely campaigned for a lot of Tian carry jungle MVPs towards the